Hello, welcome back. We are working on our next signature, which is number 3 for the album. And I've got some different cuts here I'll explain to you as we go along. So I have chosen this map page here as my base page. Now when I cut this, I really wanted this to kind of be here so it would show the different travel routes that's taking place, hopefully kind of simulating some of these here. So when I cut this sheet, this piece here came off of the side of this. There we go, right there. Then I had to trim this off the bottom. And then this came off the bottom. Oh, it's going the wrong way. Doesn't matter. Still came off the bottom. Now this is a nice element. I might use that, so kind of set it aside. I may not. But this piece here came off the top. So this is how I cut it. This came first. Then this piece came next. Then I cut this piece, and then this piece came off. All right, so then my final cut on this was about 8 3/8. You can take it all the way to 8 3/8, but I'll caution you here in a minute. You can cut it down to 8 1/4, which might be safer, but I'm kind of right smack in the middle between the two, by 8 5/8. So 8 5/8 in your height. I would say to be safe, cut this down to about 8 1/4, and here's why. This piece, once built up, is going to lay in on top of our pocket page here. And remember, this is my turning. This is anything that I do here to build up needs to turn into this strip, not the hinge. And this will rest just a little bit here. So that's how it's going to play in. So taking it to 8 3/8 might be okay, but I think you're going to be safer maybe to err on the side of caution at 8 1/4. Or you can do what I did, it's kind of cut right in the middle. That's just the way the cuts turn out. I don't plan them. Okay, so I'm going to make a pocket here to give this just a little bit of a different element. So I'm choosing to use the brick strip that came out of my scraps, and I'm trying to remember this. The ivy is going to go this way. Then I'm using this tag, put a little gold gem on it. It says, "The adventure begins when the journey begins." That's going to go right here because this entire piece is going to be made up of maps, travels, places to put large photos down to your smaller photos. So what we're going to end up with is you're going to end up with this flap, and then this flap. So the 12 by 12 you're going to cut for the front will have the car on it. Let me see if I can find it. Sorry, I have a mess over here. Huh. Let's see. It's this piece right here out of the 22 pack. Most of this double-sided will be used when we make a couple of the pull-outs for the pockets. So let's go back to this because I think it's going to be important for you to see. I trimmed all this brown off, this light tan off the edge all the way around. It was the first thing I did. And then I cut top to bottom. Excuse me. So then on this side is the other half that I cut off of each of these pieces. This 12 by 12 had a lot of elements on it. Planes, trains, boats, cars. And I wanted to utilize them all, so about the only way I could do that was to kind of break it down into sections. So when you cut this and this and this, you're going to do it based on the size of the cardstock I'm going to give you, because each of these was a cut to fit so that I could fit them in the way I want to see them, with the right little bit of an edge that I like to see. So these ended up being a cut to fit. So it shouldn't be too difficult for you to do that. Just gauge how big you want these little edges. Then I went and I put my border trim on each one. And all of these being flaps will need to be kind of held down. This will be the last panel that will sit on top. So this is where the magnet's going to go. All right, so let's go ahead and let's talk about what's the best way to do this. I think what I'm going to do is help you cut this. So this piece here is like so. So I cut this piece, where's my pencil? Just above this international, imperial and international line. So that's where my first cut came in at, was right about there. And you're going to cut it all the way across. And then we'll piece it together when we later for the center cuts. This piece, if this is where I cut the top piece, this piece here cut right through. You've got this right here, and then you've got the Philippines. So if you line this up, this piece cut right through the words Philippine, right about here. And then this piece, if this is your bottom, this is your top, then the rest of the word Philippine, this would be the final piece. And it should, after you've cut this piece, this should be left over. Okay. Now, let's cut our chipboard, and then you'll know where you want to cut the length of these. So let me pull these out, and I'm going to play with some of the bigger ephemera pieces on this piece. Like this is the train. This ephemera piece fits beautifully right on the train. So we're going to use that piece because there's not really too much I think one could do on the fronts of these, but that's going to fit there. So this panel measured 7 1/4 in the length. That does not count my die. So 7 1/4 by 3 3/8. 7 1/4 by 3 3/8 is this piece. This piece measures in at 7 inches by 3 3/4. Okay, so 7 inches by 3 3/4. The final piece on this side measures in at 7 1/2 by 5 inches. Now, oh gosh, I forgot a really important. This one up here, you're going to score at 1/2. That's your 1/2 inch score. Okay. The one in the middle, you're going to score at 1/2 and at 5/8. Because when this folds over the top of this one, it needs to allow for the space you're creating on this element so that this can sit in here comfortably, not creating any crowding or bulging, and this will wrap over the top. All right? Then when we get down to this one here, you're going to score at 1/2 and then you're going to score it at 3/4 because now this one needs to wrap around this, so it will be on the bottom, and then this will wrap around, and then you have a nice hinge that will decrease up the side of this page. Now let's get to the other side. So your left side is going to measure at 6 inches by 4 7/8. You're going to score at 1/2 and then you're going to score at 3/4 because this side, as it cascades up, needs to allow for the buildup of each of the different flaps that we have here. This one, your middle one, will measure in at 5 7/8 by 3 7/8. And then you're going to score this at 1/2, and then you're going to score it at 5/8. And then the last piece up here at the top is going to measure at 5 7/8 by 3. Now, I know that these all don't have the same measurements because this one was at 3 3/8. Let me measure that again. Yeah, that came to 3 3/8. I noticed when I was doing this that these pieces, no, I measured wrong. I'm so sorry. This is sitting at 3 1/4, not quite 3 3/8. I don't understand why, but that's how mine ended up cutting. And then you've got a 1/2 inch score with tape on this side. Because I didn't trim any of these down, so I'm not sure why these are the way they are, but it will all still come together. Verify your measurements. That's all I can say at this point, is just verify your measurements. Okay, I'm going to get some tape on this. We're going to start putting things together. And when we start putting on the panels, we are going to do them top to bottom. We're going to do it in a cascading order so that we are putting the correct hinge in place so that the other one can wrap around. Okay. Paper wants to slide around over here. All right, we got that. Now we're going to get this one glued on. Whoops. Now I liked this piece here because it brought some contrast into all the traveling here. And then this tag I'm going to glue in place. You could probably put it any place on here, depends upon what you want to cover and what you don't want to cover. But I'm going to go ahead and center it. All right, so let's start with the top right. I need to put this on first, and we'll put all the panels on first and then we'll put the papers on next. So this is going to sit just in front of the score line. The next panel close this because this needs to wrap around this. And we're going to come in just about 3/4 of an inch. And right snuggled into that gusset so that this will fold over. Now this last one is going to come, we're going to match it up to the bottom and let it lay where it's going to lay on the top. And keep in mind of this score line, 3/4 inch score line, you don't want to cover it because this needs to fold over and take in the buildup that we've just done. Now, I'm going to, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got a bit of a gap right there. So I'm going to use my undo and I'm going to take this off. I'm going to snuggle this in a little bit more because you can see this is snuggled in there quite nicely. I don't like this gap. And it throws off the cascade here. So let me retry this. It might be that this needs to lay on top of the 3/4 inch gusset rather than next to it. Okay, we're going to start this again. Now this time I'm laying right on top of the 3/4 inch gusset, and then I'm going to fold this over, and it's a much tighter fit. So lay it right on this 3/4 inch gusset. Now I'm going to have to add some glue if I want to continue to work this unless this dries out. So we're going to move to the other side and let that dry. And we're going to start with the top panel again. Just in front of the score line. And then it can lay this way. And then the next one. Now I want to make sure that these line up right. My fingers are sticking to the tape, so now I gotta readjust this again. There we go. And then this last one. And this one, again, we're just drawing up quite nicely. And so now I know that I need to come up. Oh, I can't do it that way, it's driving me crazy. Now you see how this gusset kind of flattened out on me? I need to straighten that out. So I'm going to fold that in nice and tight. This happens from time to time. I don't know why. And then I'm going to lay this right on that 3/4 inch score line like I had to do on the right side. And then fold this over. All right. Now this is the piece here where we're going to place the magnet. And by placing the magnet on the bottom piece, it will help keep all these other pieces closed. I like the look here. You can put it any way you wish, but I like to have these pieces all on the top. So I'm going to place this, and I'm using different magnets because I've got quite a few layers I'm trying to get through. So be mindful of if you're using a magnet that can't hold or click through layers, you might want to use a different magnet. So I'm going to put this on the inside just in front of the center. I'm going to put some tape on this. Now this is what's going to be fun. Oops. Is getting it to, let me find a small piece of paper here. Here we go. I'm going to lay this here. I'm going to put this here. Okay. And then I'm going to take a tad bit of tape, put it here. And then I'm going to close this. And then when I close this, before I commit that magnet, I want to make sure that my gussets that I created are standing up as flat as they can, because this is what's going to kind of hold the framework together. Slide that off. We're going to open this. And then I'm going to put just a tad bit of tape here to commit this one. Okay, so then, ta-da! So this bottom magnet, I need to move that a little bit. This bottom magnet's going to kind of hold everything here together. But I do want to adjust this just a smidgen. Because I didn't want it hanging off the edge. Okay. All right, let's get to covering everything. I'm going to start at the top with the outside piece first. And that is the piece that has the plain on it. Now there is a plain ephemera in here, and I really wanted to use it, but as you can see, it falls short of the actual plain that's on the paper. Now, you can still use it if that doesn't bother you. I would just try to line it up here with these elements across the bottom so that you're not seeing double engines. You'll just see the double tail, and you'll see a little bit of the nose. The nose doesn't bother me because you can see that it kind of carries around, but you'll have a double back here. So you could do this if you wish. Now I probably will add these on here because there really, to me, isn't any other place to add some of these elements. And again, with this paper being as busy as it is, it might not matter that you can see parts of the plain underneath. No, why is that not sticking? There we go. And again, I've inked all these edges. Don't encroach on your score lines. I'm not getting enough glue on my corners. All right, so let's go. We'll move. Oh, that's not the right set. We've got this open, so we'll put the, oh, you know, I forgot to tell, oh, God, I'm so bad. Let me see if I can find it in here. Your inside pages, out of the 22 pack, this is what I used for the inside of these flaps, is this one. And I simply cut to trim throughout this, starting at the top and then working my way down. So as you can see, the very bottom right panel will have a good majority of this piece in it. Sorry, I'm so distracted right now. My dog is very sick and she is heavy, heavy, heavy on my mind, so I feel like I'm going more with the motions right at the moment than normal. Okay, so my apologies. Not an excuse, it's just the truth. All right, now let's turn this in and let's put the piece that has the camera on it. Now we'll work down here on this piece. Now, because I have a magnet here, I'm going to opt to tape this piece on because I might need to get in there and readjust this magnet again, and if that be the case, the glue is going to force me to tear this up, and I don't want to do that. All right, so I'm going to use what little tape is on this to help get this piece in here where it's supposed to be. All right, so that is your entire right side, okay? Now, there's this ephemera piece, and then you've got this big piece here. So you could, if you wanted to, you could lay this ephemera piece. Yes, you're gonna see double directionals behind it, but it would add a bit of glitter and spark if you chose to do that. So now let's go ahead and let's move over here. We're going to start again at the top with the inside piece. And it's going to sit in here like so. For a second there, I thought I put that on upside down. Now we'll place the piece that has the train. I just love this tool. It's wide enough that I can really burnish a large, nice piece. I tried to use one of those real thin ones, but end up, over time, I've got arthritis. It ended up hurting my hands, so I just love that piece. This is what comes with these acrylic spacers, by the way, just so that you're clear on where that came from. All right, we're going to put on, nope, that's the outside. We're going to put on the center piece next. I was marking my centers for my die. Don't need the pencil marks to stay there. All right, now we're going to do the outside piece. And here's the ship. You could add this if you wanted to. You would be off-centering it a little bit, and that in order to not cover this up, because that creates a problem because this is adhesive back here. So if you want to add this, you're going to be coming in and covering this with this piece. So it's a pretty big statement piece if it doesn't bother you to cover any of this up. I mean, you would be covering it up if you chose to put photos in these places. See, and here's the train. This one fits in actually quite nice if you line up some of these front elements and then draw it down and angle it. It lines up in there rather nicely. So you could do that. I'm still on the fence. All right, internal piece here's got the magnet, so I'm going to be taping this one down. I'm kind of staring at these to see how my eye likes how they're sitting. It is a travel sheet, and I'm kind of warming up to their images being on there. Okay, line this up next to the score line, top to bottom. Burnish those two inside pieces. I have a tad bit of tape overhang, so I'm just going to roll it under. And not all my tape came off. There we go. Okay, magnet. Magnet I used clicked, so it's holding in place. Too bad I used, well, I think it wouldn't have been big enough, the car ephemera, because I used that on the front. But I have a thought. I just had a thought. I want to see something here. Hold on just a second. I'm looking for something. Oh, see, I was thinking if I cut this out, matted it, and raised it, but it's not large enough to do that. So this is what it is. So then we get back to these big elements. It's a great way to use them. And even though this is smaller, if we set it in there just right, this would look like a shadow behind it. So I am going to commit it. As I set papers aside for each of the signatures, I just don't see where I would be placing this. I may, if this doesn't come off here in 2 shakes, I am going to just tape it down and forget about taking this off, but here it goes. All right. So I'm going to focus this to kind of cover these 2 elements down here. No sense in seeing double of those. And we will just accept that. And the rest of the plane is sitting behind it. Okay, now this. Do I want to go ahead and put this here? Because otherwise you're covering it with a photo. And it's, to me, it's just looking kind of busy with all this back here. I'm not able to really hide this very well. What if I raised this? So if I raised it up, I can kind of get in line with Japan and this. And then we've got all this up here. I got to think on that one. I'm going to put it away. I got to think about it. I'm just kind of covering up the edge here so that the white isn't like standing out too much. I've noticed that when you try to take this off, that the paper underneath of it starts to tear away. Oh, upside down. All right, so I'm matching this knob, this hangout right here, to this here. And then I'm just going to lay this in so that this here looks like it's continuing on. All right, that one's in place, yay. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this one on because the nose of the boat is over here. The camera's more the big element. I don't know how much of this because it's got a lot of crevices. I'm just going to kind of take some of the white away. All right, let's see. Where's a good spot to try to pull this apart? Not there. I just so struggle with this. It's almost embarrassing. I'm so sorry. I'm just tempted now on this one to just glue it down because I'm not able to lift a piece of it off of there. So if I can't lift a piece, then that means it's less likely for it to separate away from its backing. Come on. All right, I give up. I give up. There's absolutely no sense in my struggling to get that off. Okay. All right, ta-da. I think that kind of covers the build. So the inside, you have, this will hold a 4x6. This will hold a 3.5 by 5, and this is going to hold a, be tight, but you could get a 3 by 5 here. And then over here, this is would fit in a 4 by 5. And this is going to have maybe a 4 to 4.5 by 3. And then this is going to fit a 2.5 by 5. So some odd little measurements, but you can, but that doesn't have to be for photos. You could be putting tickets, you could be putting invitations, you know, cut them out and lay the invitations, the top, the bottom. All right, turn it over. Let's get some tape on the back side. Now I'm going to show you something, if it's happening with you. You see how this gusset is collapsing on both sides? When I place it in the album, I'm going to be pushing in on these so that they stand up straight when I burnish down the tape. Okay. I'm going to kind of re-educate these score lines here real quick before I re-educate. I'm kind of telling them where their place is supposed to be, you know. All right. So now this will sit in here like so. All right. So the first thing I'm going to take off, and I've been finding it's easier for me now to take this off, and then these. Sorry about my head jumped in there. Now I'm going to make sure that that gusset stays in place, and I'm going to push down on this taped edge. Then we'll take the rest of this apart. We're going to make the inserts towards the tail end, so just so that you're aware. And I'll be using some of the double-sided paper for that, because I'm using most of the 22 single-sided for the build. But that was a nice, that's two 12 by 12 sheets that got used with no waste. Ta-da! We have success. All right, we're done. So I'll see you on the next signature. So until then, bye-bye.